Okay, here I am, the Norwegian artist Knut Andre Vikshåland. Today I want to talk about a topic that has been bugging me for many years actually. And it is the word openness, being open. What does actually being open-minded mean? There was a saying, I think it was Richard Dawkins who said it in a debate once, that we shouldn't be so open that our brain falls out. And that is a very good way to look at it. Because there is a lot of people who actually think that being open-minded to basically everything is like being open-minded to a point where you basically accept any political direction, religious direction, or any nonsense that people comes up with, any fairy tale, any medicine remedy, any type of alternative medicine. They become so open-minded that they don't have any substance anymore. There is nothing there to actually guide them through the world. So what happens is that the open-mindedness becomes so huge that forming an identity based on facts and based on reason becomes impossible. And I've seen this in many people, that actually happens, especially among artists who basically are totally relativists and basically accepts any work of art as good just because it's a work of art. And that is the kind of openness poison that is poisoning the art world. If you had the same rules for science, you wouldn't get anywhere. You wouldn't have any medicine, you wouldn't have any technology, you wouldn't have anything of the things we have. We wouldn't have that camera, okay? It wouldn't be possible. So, and you have the other kind of openness. People believe that they are open because they are sexually open. They are open to everything. They are, oh, I'm a little bit gay and a little bit this and a little bit that, and I have all these pronouns, all these new things, and I have to be open-minded to this and that and blah, 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 blah. Of course you should be sexually open-minded. If you like to do something for the right reasons, not because you're addicted to it, not because you're trying to find some kind of a respite for depression, or you try to find some kind of a anchor to build yourself up with, or you try to use short bursts to cover up the hole in the ground, as I call it. Being sexually open is very important, because if you're sexually open, you will also have a tool to come deeper into intimacy. Now, for my sake, I'm heterosexual, I like girls. My open-mindedness is limited to having sex with girls, but I don't have any problem with anyone else having sex with anyone else. So I'm open-minded to what other people do, but I'm also open-minded to see when people are using it to cover up something within them that they are lacking. And of course people don't like to hear that. And there's certain things. If you actually go for maximum openness to basically get pleasure, to cover up something that you can't really get to inside you because of childhood trauma or whatever, that is not openness. That is actually a prison. And it's the prison that will take you down. So don't use short bursts. It can be drugs, it can be alcohol, it can be food, it can be too much training, it can be... This isn't openness, this is addictions. The right kind of openness you find in Stoicism, I think. And I'm trying my best to find that thing. The openness to introspection, the openness to self-criticism, the openness to connect with one person, the openness to be open for friendships, to be vulnerable, openness to study science and study religion and history and everything you can think of, so that I am illiterate enough to have a constructive conversation or discussion with people around the world actually about different topics. If you're also if you want to be really open, you have to be open to the fact that people will dislike you. There are people who will actually hate you for telling the truth. And I've noticed that when I talk to people who call themselves open. And I'm the kind of guy who is kind of mean enough to poke around a little bit to find something that they have very tight to the chest, that is not based on facts or science, that are usually triggered by neurosis or whatever, or indoctrination or misinformation or lack of knowledge of science about stuff. And I try to find that thing and I start poking at it, because you have two types of people. You have the people who are maybe doesn't have enough information, so they are misinformed, or you have people who are misinformed but have made this thing into identity. And when you have made some politics or some religion or some view of life into a basically identity and religion, you are closing down all the doors. And that's where I'm starting to poke. And I'm starting to poke to see what happens. And what usually happens is this. I poke them and they start to argue. I give them knowledge and they get even more resentful and angry. Then I go in with my sledgehammer and I break the window, basically. And I just show them the facts. And the real open person then, when they are faced with the fact, even if they get angry, because everybody gets a little bit angry when you're in a discussion, or you can feel that feeling bubbling up in you. The people who then pull back and they pause and they think and they say, shit, I was wrong. That's the open person. That is the open person. Faced with facts, faced with reality, you just tell yourself, okay, I didn't know enough about this thing, and from now on I'm going to be more critical. That's the real open person. It isn't the person who gets angry. It isn't the person who start yelling to you and telling you a besserwisser and you're arrogant and you're hurting my feelings and you don't respect my feelings and you don't respect what I believe in and stuff like that. I mean, if you believe in the flying spaghetti monster just because it feels right for you, or Odin or Allah or God or whatever, and there's no basis for this in science, in history or anything, there's no basis for any gods or anything like that, and you actually believe in these things, you shouldn't be surprised that somebody might tell you it's wrong. And of course, because of bias, people kill because of that. If I told a Muslim, which I've done many times actually, that Muhammad actually didn't exist and you can't find him in real history, they get really angry. And I could get killed for saying that. I mean, if I tell a Christian that I don't believe in Jesus, he tells me I'm going to hell. And that's basically. So, if you can't actually discuss the most important things without anger and without resentment, without being willing to challenge your own beliefs, you are not open. You are not open because you accept everything. Okay? That is not openness. When it comes to religious thinking, it is basically the same as political thinking, because in Norway we have a bunch of political parties and they're just arguing. I mean, somewhere in this argument, there is something that would actually work. You know, there are some silver lining somewhere, some consensus that could be reached, that you could combine protecting the environment, building a strong economy, getting people to work, not giving so much that people fall asleep, but they actually get inspired to use themselves. There are ways to save world poverty if we will actually look at it and do something about it. But you have to be open-minded to basically, for instance, get rid of nationalism. You have to get rid of the notion that the people over the fence are different than the kids in your garden. You have to be open-minded enough not to build your identity on nationalism or national pride or your religion, because you will then only mostly focus on your in-group. So being really open-minded is basically to blow to pieces all the pieces of your identity that is learned in from your culture. Now, there are absolutely things we should keep in Western culture. You have humanism, you have democracy, which probably is the best way we can rule. I don't think if we could have a system of laws that actually regulated us in an objective sense, that would have been better. But you have to have some way to build up these laws anyway. And in a way, that is also what we already have. It just doesn't work that well because we have too many political parties with too many narcissists who are sitting there trying to get power, trying to kind of basically push their own agenda, despite that the agenda wouldn't work. You have look at the environmental organizations here in Norway, like the Green Party. Well, the Green Party, they want to cut oil production in Norway. They want to go green. Well, if we did that, the Arabs would pump more. Okay? So it doesn't matter. The best thing we can do is to use it in Norway. That's a rational thing to do. But because of their bias and the lack of real openness for the facts, they go for solutions that make them feel good here. Instead of thinking globally, they are thinking in this country. And Norway, basically, despite oil production, gas production, has basically 0.00 something with the emissions in the world. When it comes to openness, if people aren't really open, it's also a problem when it comes to other things like overeating, obesity, smoking, drinking too much, like I've done. I drank too much, I trained too much, I wasted too much time. Why? Because I wasn't really open to do the necessary inner dialogue. And I still do not know if I am really there. It's also work in progress. So the whole openness thing and identity thing is probably the most difficult of all, because we have this bias, because we are vain creatures. I call it, usually when I look at a person who talks a lot about that they are so open, and you poke them a little bit and they are not that open after all, I call it a vanity project. They are using the word openness as a form of makeup. They kind of know deep down there that are not really open, or maybe they don't even know, but they feel it, so they tend to talk a lot about it. It's almost like a person who doesn't love their spouse or their girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and they say, I love you, 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 I love you. But it doesn't really reach deep into their being. For a narcissist, if there is a narcissist there, the problem is that the narcissist doesn't really love you. The narcissist loves the feeling you give them. So you can say, if you love a narcissist, the narcissist loves themselves twice. They love what you give them, and they love themselves. Or maybe they don't even love themselves, really, because they are narcissists, but they love the attention. So when they say they love you, they don't really love you, they love themselves. While a normal person will actually love the other person. That is why love for normal people actually lasts more than 2 months. You know, it's like if you as a person who really are capable of love goes deep. It goes deep. And being open means having broken down all these barriers, so you actually open enough to love, because anyone can be open enough to have many partners, which I also have done, to use sex as a tool to cover up the emptiness, as an addiction. It's the same as an alcohol addiction or a food addiction. But it can also be an addiction to actually attention, because conflating, I thought about myself when I used to basically use sex as a way to get gratification. When I think back to the today, I don't really think it was the sex. It's more like the attention I got. And the feeling of being seen, because I had some issues in my childhood, so gave me some scars, and these scars led me to wanting this kind of gratification. But now, at this point in my life, I couldn't care less. My gratification comes from an openness to explore in depth. And it's very difficult, as I said, because you can't really know if you're doing it or not before it's in retrospect. So, yeah, I would say, if you want to be a true open person, what you do is this. You seek out information that comes in like a rocket ball into your own bias. And you seek out information that will make you be capable of changing your mind. You have to be open despite the feeling. Nobody actually likes to be wrong, because it kind of goes out of, you lose some of your self-esteem for a little while. But being open-minded enough to actually take in information, to be self-critical, to see when you've done something wrong and own it, to treat people good because your openness actually leads to the sense of introspection, where you actually see other people as human and not as a tool for your own pleasure. And you don't use anything to excess to cover up the emptiness inside you, but you open up and you use what's called not short buzz, but long buzz. You know, the slow dopamine, and you get content with life itself because you are open to it. You are open to the nuances, and you don't really need this bungee jumping all the time. You just find that flow. And as a rant about openness, but this is what I would actually, if you call yourself open-minded, you should at the same time not get angry or resentful or arrogant or stonewall or gaslight when some people tell you you are wrong, or tell you you did actually do something wrong. What you do is that you own it, you look at it, you gather information, you go deeper, you get to know yourself better, and then you're on the journey to true openness. And that is also the moment you don't really need other people's, shall we say, approval to be yourself. You don't need other people to make you feel good. You don't need other people to give you the gratification that you can actually get from your creative work or whatever you do. You find that depth, try to find that depth, and you go for it. I found a lot of good tips in Stoic philosophy. I listened a lot to of course, Jordan Peterson. I disagree with him on many things. Not many things, but especially this religious stuff he's doing. That he kind of believes in a creator and stuff is kind of weird for me because it's no evidence for it, and that's his flaw, I think. He has no information that I don't have to say that the universe needs a creator. Okay? It's just not there. Maybe I misunderstood what he said, but I heard so much of what he said that I would say that I'm pretty sure that he means that. And it's strange to me that he can. One of my greatest heroes is the late Christopher Hitchens, and if anyone taught me what openness really was, it was him. Despite for my parents, of course, which were very emotional, very much there for me when I was a child. So I got this natural openness from them. I was allowed to show my feelings, I was allowed to speak, I was allowed to be myself. And despite other things, that became the basis for what is now, in my view anyway, and I think I can say that with a pretty big certainty, that I'm an open person. Open. It doesn't mean that I'm so open that my head has fallen off. But I'm open enough to be self-critical. And that is basically what I had to say. I think you should check out Stoic philosophy. I think you should Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Jordan Peterson. Listen to Sam Harris, actually, is quite good. Listening to Christopher Hitchens is brilliant when it comes to religion. And other things too, politics, religion, philosophy, everything, because he's a highly intelligent person. And yeah, I will recommend just take in as much science as possible, as much philosophy as possible, as much knowledge and history as possible. Read the Quran, read the Bible, maybe get to know other religions too, so you actually know what the hell you're talking about. And find some hobby, something you do that is yours, where you can find that beautiful slow flow and basically ride on this wave called life until, as Christopher Hitchens said, we are born into a losing struggle. We are shot from the uterus as a cannonball towards a barn door studded with rusty hooks and knives, and the only important thing is what you do between you are shot from the uterus till you hit that barn door, and you're fucked and you're gone and it's over. So yeah, memento mori and amor fati. Embrace your faith and remember you're going to die. So with this, I will take a sip of my coffee. And I will start painting. Yes. It is now Thursday today. Is it Thursday? Wednesday, 4th of May is it today. It's 7:30 in the evening. And I just made a video about being